Welcome everybody. In this video we are going to get a little bit more into how to use JavaScript to change sort of what is going on the web page. So up until this point we have mostly been working through the console, which is nice because it's really easy to access the console. It's easy to print to. It's a good place to do some simple stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and bet that you have never been to a website that has required you to do anything with the console. And in fact, if you go to some websites like Facebook and you open up the JavaScript console, there's a big warning there telling you that if somebody directs you to go to the console, they might be trying to scam you. So it's really a developer tool, and it's something we'll use because we are, sort of learning how to be web developers. But we also want to learn how to make the sorts of websites that we're used to seeing out in the wild, or at least some basic versions of them. So in order to do that, we are going to talk a little bit more about the HTML side of things. The CSS side is going to come. We're not going to get there yet. But today we're going to talk about how to have JavaScript interact with the HTML. So let's talk a little bit about sort of the anatomy of an HTML tag. And all of these little things that we're making here are called tags. And so most tags have a beginning tag and an ending tag. And then inside of the tag they have some content. And the content can be something like, inside of this title tag, the content is just text. But inside of the head tag, the content is other HTML tags. And generally tags add things to the document, right? If you want to create an HTML document, you're going to do it by creating a bunch of tags. Some tags reference outside things, like our link tag here that references our style sheet, and our script tag here that references our JavaScript file. And some tags just sort of live on their own inside of the HTML document, like our hello world tag. So if I were to open up this web page, you would see a web page. Now the JavaScript is going to do some other stuff, and quite frankly I don't remember what I was doing with it, so who knows how it's going to behave. But the actual HTML part of the web page would be, actually let's just take the script out and see what it looks like. So we are going to just Control-X this script, Command-X on a Mac. We're going to save this and we're going to open it up in Chrome to see how bare bones this website is. Go to File, Open File. I've been opening this one a bunch. So it says Hello World, and it's got Hello World title up here. And Chrome is telling me it wants to be my default browser, which is not part of my website. So that's not a lot. And it's colored with, I think this is Rebecca Purple is the name of that color. So let's add some more stuff to it. Paragraph tags are where most of your text is going to live. And you'll have images and stuff like that. We'll get into that later. But for now, we're going to build some tags and I'm going to show you how to interact with them in JavaScript. So just to get some stuff on the page. So I'm going to save this and reload it so that you can see there's a couple of things on this page. Index.html. Okay, so it's just a couple of sentences. We might have buttons, we might have form fields, we might have other stuff, and we will have that eventually, but for today we're just going to work with this text. So if I want to interact with these elements in JavaScript, I need to have a way to reference them. I need to be able to identify them as objects. And so one of the other things you can add to your HTML tags that we haven't done yet is you can add what's called attributes. So if I go inside of the tag here, I'm going inside of the angle brackets. I can put a space after P, and I can give it an ID. And it can say ID equals hello world. I can call this paragraph, let's see, ID equals first sentence. It's not how you spell first. And I can say this one is called ID equals, oh, and I did not put that in the right place. I got to put that inside of the angle brackets. Capybara. So now each of these, and this is not, when I save this, it's not going to change how it shows up at all. If I go back to Chrome, I reload, you're not going to see anything different. But now I can call out each of these P elements by name. They have an ID, and that's going to let me find them inside of what is called the document object model. And don't worry too much about what that is right now. It's sometimes referred to as the DOM. But that's basically just the collection of all objects that exist on a web page. And these can get very, very complicated. They can get into the thousands or tens of thousands of elements. When you're talking about very large or very complicated websites, now ours probably only has a half a dozen elements in it. It's got a head, it's got a title, a link, a body, a couple of P's. So that's maybe 6 to 9 elements. It's not huge, but we still need a way to reference the things in there. So I'm also going to create a new JavaScript file here. I'm going to do that by going to this little page with a plus, and I'm going to call it, let's call it alter.js, because we're going to alter some attributes. And so before I do anything else, I want to make sure that I'm pointing my index.html at my new JavaScript file. And I took out that script tag, so I need to add that back in at the end of my body, because if you don't have a script tag in here, your script won't execute at all, and that's obviously not what we want. So the way you write this is it's a script tag, so we do script src equals and then the name of our JavaScript file, which is alter.js, and then this doesn't have any content. So this is an attribute. These things that happen inside of the angle brackets are called attributes. The things that happen between the beginning and the closing tag are called contents. And so the script tag does not have any content, although it does reference a script, which obviously is about to have a lot of content. So that's the only reason I'm mentioning that is sometimes you'll read, if you're reading about how to do stuff or how to add things to your web page, they'll talk about attributes and contents on these tags. This stuff inside of the angle brackets is an attribute. The stuff between the beginning and the closing tag is the content. Okay, so let's go to alter.js, and let's write a little program that is going to prompt the user for something, and then change the value of one of our paragraphs based off of what the user has said to us. So the first thing we'll need to do is declare a new variable. And let's ask the user what their favorite animal is. And we are going to this should look familiar to you. I'm doing a couple of things in one line here. I'll just sort of point them out. Let favorite animal is declaring a new variable. We talked about the let keyword in class last time, and let just means we've got a new variable here. Prompt is a function that prompts the user. It's the one that drops down that little thing at the top of the screen. And prompt is a function that will return a value, which means that we get to take whatever the user puts and put it into favorite animal. So if we want to store whatever the user says into an element on the page, that is actually pretty simple to do. Now, it's going to look a little bit different than some of the stuff we've been doing, and if you don't understand why it's structured the way it is right now, that's totally okay. What's really important is that you understand how to use it. So I am going to use a command called document.getElementById. Inside of parentheses, inside of quotation marks, I am going to put in the ID of the element I am trying to get to. And in order to alter it, you have to get to it. So this is basically just saying, hey, grab this element for me. I'm going to use the paragraph called capybara. And I'm going to go back to my HTML to actually make sure I know what I called these things. So this paragraph ID is capybara. In my alter.js, I am getting an element by ID. And I'm going to change an attribute of it called inner text, which is just the text inside of the p tag, and that's also the text that shows up. And I am going to set that equal to favorite animal. So that is only a 2-line JavaScript file. It is actually pretty straightforward to do a lot of these more basic manipulations. But let's go ahead and save everything and make sure that I actually did it correctly. So I'm going to go into Chrome. I'm going to reload the web page. And you can see that that text is still there behind, right? So if I say what my favorite animal is, a dog, it's going to change the text to just say dog. And if I actually go into the developer tools here in Chrome, I can see the HTML here, and you'll notice that it now says dog in this paragraph with the ID of capybara, rather than saying the sentence about the capybara that I wrote. And so now we have managed to get some text from the user, and instead of having to log it to the console, which is someplace you really shouldn't have your users go, we've logged it to the web page itself. We have changed a part of our web page programmatically based on some interaction with the user. And so this is probably the longest video that we have had so far for only 2 lines of JavaScript. But what I want to sort of build here is an understanding of a couple of things, and I'm going to go back over this. So one of those things is all of these little tags we're putting in our HTML have different parts. They have their attributes, which are inside of these little angle brackets here, and they have the content, which is between the beginning and the ending tag. And these attributes will let us pick them out. This ID attribute specifically will let us pick them out programmatically. And then we can change their content once we can pick them out programmatically. The second thing, oh, that's the wrong JavaScript file. The second thing I would like to communicate to you is that a lot of times doing some basic manipulation of the HTML based off of input from the user is not that difficult. The programming basics, once you get them down, there's a lot. JavaScript is a very flexible language. There's a lot you can do with it. So what I would like you to do at the end of this video is, you remember there was a video that we did a couple back, I think it was the string interpolation video, where you had to ask the user a couple of pieces of information about themselves and print it to the console. I would like you to create a new file, and you can use code from your old file or you can reference it. That's totally fine. Reusing your own code is a really, really good idea. It's something that that is a good practice to get into, because number one, it's going to remind you how to do it. You've already written it. And number two, it's going to save you some time. So what I want you to do is make a new JavaScript file. It's fine if you copy your code out of the old file, and rewrite the program that asks the user for some pieces of information about themselves and logs it to the console. Change that so that it changes one of the HTML elements, one of the P elements on your web page, to actually show the user the information about them outside of the console. That is going to be the skills check for this video. As always, if you have any questions, if there's anything you don't understand, please feel free to raise your hand. We'll take a look at it together. And once you get that skills check done, you are good to move on to the next video.